What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel, and in this video I'm going to give you my top 10 college football quarterbacks heading into the 2024 college football season. So again, how this video is pretty much going to work, we're going to give you 10 quarterbacks here that I feel like are going to be really good quarterbacks heading into the 2024 season. Some of these 10 quarterbacks, some of them, maybe from 6 through 10, probably won't be Heisman candidates, but the quarterbacks in the top 5 are definitely, in my opinion, maybe Heisman candidates for 2024. So this is kind of a new video suggestion. I did a video like this last year. I kind of, done it now, I think, for the last 2 years. I can't really remember if I did one in 2022, but I did also do one from last year, and some of those quarterbacks definitely turned out to be Heisman candidates. But this year, I think there are there's really a lot of good quarterbacks for 2024, and I think these 10 quarterbacks do have a chance to really have good expectations and also really have a good season as with their team as well. So let's go ahead and get right into this list. We will start from the bottom and work our way to the top. Again, these are my top 10 quarterbacks heading into the 2024 college football season. So we start here at number 10. Number 10 for me is Shadir Sanders of Colorado. Looking at his stats from last year, he had 3,230 yards of passing, 27 touchdown passes, and then 3 interceptions. So he took care of the football pretty well. And then his quarterback percentage last year was 69.3%. So yeah, he took care of the football pretty well last year. Definitely did not throw a lot of interceptions. Played really well in that first game of the season against TCU last year. A lot of people were already calling Shadir Sanders a Heisman candidate really much after one game. He did throw over 4,000, or actually not over 4,000. That would be definitely video game numbers, but he threw over 400 yards passing in that game. He played really great in that game. I wasn't really calling him a Heisman candidate, though, basically just after one game, because when you look at Colorado for the rest of the season, it got really rough for them down the stretch. One thing that really was inconsistent about Shadir Sanders was definitely his offensive line. Got sacked so many times, so the offensive line can improve this year. Shadir Sanders does have a chance to be a top quarterback in the country. He also has a chance to be one of the top quarterbacks in the Big 12 as well. So Shadir Sanders, coming off a really good first year at Colorado last year. Again, 3,230 yards of passing, 27 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. But again, if the offensive lineman can protect him, I think Shadir Sanders does have a chance to be a really good quarterback this year. So Sanders here at number 10. Moving on to number 9, we got Noah Fifiti. I really don't know how to pronounce that last name, but last year, of course, played for Arizona. He had 2,869 yards of passing, 25 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions, and then his quarterback percentage was definitely the best thing about him. He had 72.4% completion percentage. He's definitely been one of the top quarterbacks in Arizona, in recent years. Arizona, I think, had a really good quarterback back in the old days, but this year it's definitely a really good quarterback for them in the future. I think Noah does have a really bright future here for this Arizona football team. Arizona might not be the same team as they were from last year, but with Noah Fifiti coming back here at quarterback, I feel like he's going to have a really good season for this Arizona team. He's not definitely a Heisman candidate. I don't really think he's going to be up there with the top quarterbacks in the country, but he definitely could be another good quarterback in the Big 12 this season. Arizona and Colorado are both teams that are heading to the Big 12 this year. So both of these quarterbacks do have a chance to be dark horse quarterbacks and definitely dark horse Heisman candidates. But I don't really think Noah does fit into the top quarterbacks in the country. But I think again he's going to be a top 10 quarterback this year. So again, his numbers last year were 2,869 yards of passing, 25 touchdown passes, and then 6 interceptions. And again, his quarterback completion percentage was definitely really good. So he's sitting here at number 9 on this list. Moving on to number 8, it's Drew Aller of Penn State. Drew Aller coming off a pretty good season in his first full-time year as a starter. Actually, throwing 2,631 yards of passing, 25 touchdown passes, and then really took care of the football pretty well. Only 2 interceptions last year. This was definitely a very consistent quarterback in the Big Ten. His passing completion percentage, though, was not really the best, only about 59.9% passing completion percentage. That definitely is not a really good percentage, so he definitely has a lot to improve in that percentage there. I don't think Drew Aller is like a Heisman candidate, but he's definitely a top 10 quarterback in my opinion, just based off of his numbers last year. Again, I think Drew Aller does have a chance to probably be one of the top quarterbacks in the Big Ten, but there's another guy out there that really is just ahead of him. We'll talk about him later on this list, but again, Drew Aller is definitely a top 10 quarterback in my opinion. He's definitely not a Heisman candidate as of right now, but again, based off of his numbers and based off of how he took care of the football last year, I think he can definitely improve that passing percentage and that passing completion percentage. So Drew Aller here at number 8 on this list. Number 7 is Brady Cook of Missouri. Look at his numbers last year: 3,317 yards, the best season, of course, of his Missouri career. 21 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions. So maybe that doesn't seem like a lot of passing touchdowns, but this is a Missouri team, that was really a big surprise last year. Overall, they had a really good offensive team last season. Brady Cook definitely took care of the football pretty well. He had a 66.1% completion percentage as a quarterback. I think Brady Cook has a chance to be a top 5 quarterback in the SEC this year, maybe besides some other team or some other quarterbacks that are ahead of him. But Brady Cook had a pretty good year last year. I think that definitely is enough for me to put him as a top 10 quarterback. Not a Heisman candidate though. I feel like playing in the SEC will get to him. I mean, playing in the SEC of course is very tough, but I do think Missouri does have a chance to be a really good team this year. The offensive side of the football looks great for them coming back this year, and again, with Brady Cook coming back at quarterback with that veteran experience at Missouri, it's been an up and down career for Brady Cook, but definitely had his best season last year as a quarterback, and I think this year, based off of that, I think he'll have a really good season for 2024. So Brady Cook at number 7 here on this list. Number 6 is Jackson Dart, so he's staying in the SEC. Jackson Dart, of course, from Ole Miss. Look at his numbers last year as a second-year starter: 3,364 yards of passing, 23 touchdown passes, and then 5 interceptions. Had a quarterback percentage of 65.1%. He definitely improved that quarterback percentage compared to last year, or I should say the year before in 2022. Jackson Dart, I think, has a chance to be a really good quarterback this year. Maybe potentially a Heisman candidate if he does have a really good, consistent year, and if Ole Miss can definitely run the table and definitely challenge Georgia and Texas in the SEC, this Ole Miss team could be a very dangerous team. They have a lot of experience coming back on both sides of the football, brought in some transfers to help them out, but Jackson Dart, I think, is just outside the top 5 for me. There is definitely other good quarterbacks maybe besides him, but I think Jackson Dart does have a chance to have a really consistent year. Again, last year's season, he had a really good year as a second, full-time starter, and he's getting better. He's getting really better and better as the 2 years go on. I think this will definitely be his best season yet. I mean, I think if he definitely does improve that percentage a little bit, he could definitely be sitting there in the top 5 or the top 5 quarterbacks in the country, and definitely being a Heisman candidate, maybe being a dark horse Heisman candidate, I should say. So Ole Miss here, with a great quarterback coming up this year. But Jackson Dart, based off of his numbers last year, that's the reason why he ended up being here at number 6 on this list. All right, let's go to the top 5 now. These 5 quarterbacks that you're going to see here in the top 5, I feel like are definitely Heisman candidates, and they definitely could have a very dominant season as a quarterback as well, and they're potentially first-round NFL draft picks in the future. So let's go to number 5 now. That's Quinn Yates of Texas, coming off a really successful year last year. Got injured, of course, back in 2022 and missed a few times of the season. He did get injured last year, but once he came back from that injury, he was definitely better than before. Had 3,479 yards of passing, 22 passing touchdowns, 6 interceptions, so he took care of the football pretty well, and then had a 69% completion percentage. He definitely improved that percentage a little bit going into 2023. I think Quinn Ewers does have a chance to be really good this year. He's definitely a first-round pick in the NFL, in my opinion. He's also potentially a Heisman candidate based off of where he was last year, and he led this Texas team to, big wins last year over Alabama, and also leading them to the Big 12 championship and also to the college football playoff. So Quinn Yates does have a chance to be pretty good, but playing in the SEC, it's definitely going to be a little bit tougher here for Texas. Again, playing in the Big 12 last year was pretty easy for them, but this year playing in the SEC, it will be a little bit tougher. But I think Quinn Ewers does have a chance to be a really good quarterback heading into 2024. So again, Quinn Ewers is number 5 on this list, potentially a Heisman candidate for 2024. Moving on to number 4, that's Cameron Ward of Washington State from last year, but this year he is heading to Miami as a transfer. Look at his numbers last year for Washington State. 3,375 yards of passing, 25 touchdown passes, 7 interceptions, and then 66.6% completion percentage. Yeah, that's a very big number, especially for a quarterback that's coming over from a Pac-12 team from last year. This year he did enter the transfer portal. He's going to the Miami Hurricanes. I think he does fit into this system pretty well down there for the Hurricanes. We saw him in the spring game, played pretty well. Cameron Ward might have the biggest, he may have like the, best throwing arm in the country as a quarterback, maybe besides other quarterbacks in the country. But Cameron Ward definitely, I think, has the strongest arm of a quarterback, this year. He's probably one of those, definitely like one of those best deep throwing quarterbacks in the country this year as well. And Cameron Ward does have a lot of experience. He does bring in a lot of experience from Washington State over to Miami. I think he does fit well into the system under Mario Cristobal. And with him at quarterback, Miami could be a dangerous team in the ACC. I think Cameron Ward is definitely one of the top quarterbacks in the ACC this year as well. There's not really a lot of good ACC quarterbacks in my opinion, except for Cameron Ward. Maybe there's other quarterbacks out there in the ACC, but I think Cameron Ward is definitely the top one in the country and definitely the top quarterback, maybe also in the country as well. So again, Cameron Ward is definitely a Heisman candidate in my opinion. Again, I think he's the best, deep balling throwing quarterback that I've seen, this year in 2024 so far. So Cameron Ward here at number 4 on this list. I think he's definitely a Heisman candidate, and that's how he ended up being here at number 4 on this countdown. Moving on to number 3, it's Jalen Milroe of Alabama. Of course, made his first full-time, start as a quarterback last year, first full-time year as a starting quarterback. He got off to a slow start last year in 2023, but you look at his stats, 2,834 yards, and then 23 touchdown passes, and then 6 interceptions, and then 65.8% completion percentage. So you're probably wondering, why is Jalen Milroe here in the top 5? Well, he got better and better as the season went on from last year. At first half of the year, he was benched in that South Florida game, started, again for Ole Miss. And, he was definitely better a little bit in that game. He did struggle against Texas last year, but once he got into the second half of year, Jalen Milroe was definitely looking like a Heisman contender and definitely a Heisman candidate in my opinion, but I don't think he was right up there with the top quarterbacks in the country. But again, he got better and better as the season goes on, and look what he did. He led this Alabama team to an SEC championship last year and also to the college football playoff, even though they lost. I mean, that's a big accomplishment for a first full-time starter as an Alabama quarterback. This year, it's going to be different for him. Of course, Nick Saban retiring, Kalen DeBoer taken now over at Alabama. Kalen DeBoer does have offensive backgrounds. Maybe Jalen Milroe does fit into this system. I'm not really concerned about the offense for Alabama. I think the defense is what I'm concerned about the most. But I think offensively, Jalen Milroe does have a chance to probably put up 3,000 yards on the season this year. Again, based off of where Kalen DeBoer led Washington's offense last year. So Jalen Milroe of Alabama is definitely a Heisman candidate, and that's how he ended up here at number 3 on this list. Moving on to number 2, that's Dillon Gabriel of Oklahoma last year, but this year, like Cameron Ward, he's heading to the transfer portal, and he is going to Oregon this year. And Oregon is getting a veteran guy this upcoming season. Look at his stats from last year: 3,660 yards of passing, 30 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions, and then 69.3% completion percentage. So yeah, Dillon Gabriel has got a lot of experience at the college level. Started his career at UCF, and then of course went over to Oklahoma for a couple years, and now this this year he is going to join Dan Lanning and Oregon on the offensive side of the football. This Oregon team has a chance to be a dangerous offense with Dillon Gabriel coming over. He does replace Bo Nix at quarterback, who was definitely a really good quarterback for them in the last couple years. I don't really see any concerns with the quarterback position at all here if you're an Oregon fan. Defensively, I think they'll be really good on that side of the football as well, but this is all about Dillon Gabriel. Again, Dillon Gabriel hasn't really gotten a chance to be a Heisman candidate. I think that this is his year. I think he'll definitely have a really good season and a very dominant season, and in fact, I think he could definitely be one of the favorites to win the Heisman this year. But again, the next guy that we're going to talk about is definitely a Heisman favorite and definitely probably the favorite to win it all this year as well. But you look at Dillon Gabriel, again, he's had a long college career. This is definitely his final year. This is his 6th year as a quarterback in the college level. I think he's definitely a first-round pick in my opinion. And again, he definitely was a great quarterback last year in his final year at Oklahoma. But this year going into Oregon, I think he definitely has a chance to have a really dominant season. But playing in the Big Ten will be a little bit tough, especially playing at Oregon. Again, going to the Big Ten this year, we'll see how that goes for them. But Dillon Gabriel is number 2 here on this list. But in my opinion, he's not the top quarterback in the country. This next guy, that brings me to my number 1 top quarterback heading into 2024. Number 1 for me is Carson Beck. I meant to put, Carson Beck there as a graphic. I meant to put his name there, but instead it is, Carson Beck here at number 1. Look at his numbers from last year. 3,941 yards of passing, 24 touchdown passes, and then 6 interceptions, and then 72.4% completion percentage. Yeah, what a great season Carson Beck had last year as a first full-time starter. Was the backup quarterback behind Stetson Bennett for the last couple years, and then out of nowhere he comes up and puts these big numbers. Carson Beck does have a chance to be a really good quarterback this year. He's definitely, in my opinion, the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy, and definitely the Georgia Bulldogs are definitely like the favorites to win it all this year in 2024 as well. This Georgia team is just really loaded on both sides of the football, especially the offense. The offense was very explosive with Carson Beck. I think this offense does have a chance to be a really explosive offense again. So again, Carson Beck, in my opinion, is one of the top quarterbacks in the country this year. And again, I meant to say, Carson Beck instead of Jalen Milroe. I messed up my graphic there, so my bad on that one. But again, Carson Beck is number 1 here on this list. That is pretty much clear for me. I think Carson Beck is definitely one of the top quarterbacks in the country and definitely in the SEC. So again, 3,941 yards last year. He was definitely close to that 4,000-yard mark. Maybe he can reach that number this year if he stays healthy. So Carson Beck here, that's the reason why he ended up being at number 1 on this list. And those are my top 10 quarterbacks, my official top 10 quarterbacks in the 2024 college football season, for the upcoming season, I should say. So give me your thoughts on these top 10 quarterbacks down in the comments below. Who do you think is a top 10 quarterback for this upcoming season? Do you guys agree or disagree with this list? Let me know it on the comments below. Thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports Channel.